Jordan calling in from California. Jordan, what's going on?
I'm doing awesome. How are you guys doing?
Great,
doing
Jordan.
awesome.
Thanks for
Doing
calling.
cool.
Anyway, guys, this is my first time calling into the show, and I think you guys are two amazing people. And I just want to discuss, like, you guys are hearing a lot of perspectives tonight, but I want to know your guys' perspective on what exactly is truth, because I've seen a lot of different definitions, and I'm kind of confused myself on what we should actually call truth. What is your guys' idea, if you have one?
Dan, you want to start?
I suppose it is Truth Wanted. I'm the host. I should
That's
probably
right.
like define my terms, right? But you're right, Jordan. Like, there is a tricky thing when we're talking about the word truth. It's not as straightforward as a common parlance kind of makes it. And we have different theories of truth in philosophy. And I won't go even go into all of them because there's so many and they're so dense. And quite frankly, I'm not qualified. There's different constructions of what we mean by truth and how we can understand that word and what it means. I think functionally we tend to work on this pragmatic idea of truth that relies on this assumption that we live in a shared reality, and somehow through a shared rational process we can come to like an agreement on what exactly we're experiencing. Even though I do think like that's going to be based on like the mental constructs that we have. So I got Pico in the background right here, right? And I know that Pico is a cat, but I have an understanding of what the word cat means only because of my experience of a cat. And that includes pictures of cats I've seen on the internet. That includes cats I've played with and stuff. And how I differentiate that cat from, say, a dog, I can make those comparisons. They have 4 legs, they've got noses, they're mammals, but I have to also kind of make these differentiations. But it's all going to be at the end of the day from observation. I don't think we can have a realistic understanding of truth if it doesn't come from some kind of observation. And even that includes predictions too, as well, because our predictions are going to be based on either some observations we have of math or some observations we have of the physical world. So all this to say, I think truth is kind of this. I don't know if there's one definition that I could really solve for it, I guess, but maybe it's more of like a shared understanding of reality, a feature of an objective reality that we can discover, perhaps. But again, that's going to rely on a bunch of assumptions right there in me saying that it's too much for me to deconstruct. But that's like as basic as I can get it, like right now on 8 o'clock on a Friday night. But Ian, what's your understanding of that word?
There's a lot of ways to answer that, so I'm going to take it from the what I've been explaining within the context of what I've been sharing with you. So when I think of someone asks me, what is the core of truth below all of this? I would say that, first of all, I don't know. Let's just start with that. I have no idea. I don't know, but you're asking my opinion. So this is what I've come up with, that first of all, whatever consciousness is, I believe that it is the best way to describe it is the ground state of all matter and energy, from which all matter and energy springs from. In terms of, I would say that it perhaps even it is the nature of empty space, a true vacuum, perhaps, upon which everything else resides on top of, all of the particles and the atoms and the molecules and the interactions and the energy fields upon all of that. And I believe that it's as if perhaps empty space has an awareness, and awareness is its quality, it is its flavor, perhaps you could say, that emptiness. And I know this is sounding very Buddhist at this point, so that's why many times people say, well, you sound very Zen. Like, it does sound very Zen, but you know what? I don't want to, again, there's a whole other narrative that people will attach to the idea of Zen Buddhism. So I try to describe it for the way I see it. So everything else is built on top of that. And there is only one there. I mean, it's not like there are several different kinds of empty space. The main thing that we are dealing with in this reality that is really affecting us first and foremost within that playing field, that loading zone, is what I almost see as consciousnesses. Remember the Matrix, the first Matrix movie, when he goes into the loading zone, and because again, I believe essentially it looks like simulation theory on another level. It's just this white space where, you know, Morpheus and Trinity are like, well, this is our loading zone. It's just this empty thing, but we pull things into it. We can pull in our gear and our weapons and everything. To me, that is absolutely what consciousness is. It is just the blank slate but I would say it has equality of awareness. And there is only one of them. But again, once you start loading all of the different things into it, then that consciousness peers through all of the different manifestations. So I think
Jordan was kind of asking about a definition of truth. I know you're talking about consciousness.
And that's the only way I can describe truth. That you can, that's the playing field upon which truth is. So what is true for you is going to be whatever you have decided to attach yourself within that loading zone.
Yeah, like that's the thing, right? Like, is truth like context dependent? Does it exist outside of us? Like and it's hard to talk about truth without using like tautologies as well. Yes. You know, and it's frustrating because you know, you talk to people who think like, oh, we live in this world of fake news and stuff. They don't know what's true and they don't know what's real. And it's like, I don't trust that those people who are complaining about the fake news know what's real either. It's like, because people who don't look, I don't have a philosophy degree, but like I know enough about epistemology to know that I don't know a lot. That it's a complicated subject that people simplify way too easily. And if I could change one thing about the, you know, education system, well, I would want to change a lot. But like just the critical thinking, just the basics, just this idea of questioning our very basic assumptions, like is just key to even figuring out what it is when we even mean when we say truth. So Jordan, these were two very long answers to your questions. Did we get it so far?
Do you mind? I guess somewhat, but maybe let's go into something that you guys were discussing earlier. I think you guys might know a little bit more, is consciousness. And I think that the empty space thing was kind of interesting to me. And I'm just wondering if it's just a blank slate, does consciousness also exist in something? Because if it's just in a blank slate, wouldn't it be a full state like matter not have consciousness? Like how would it exist within a blank slate of
great question. Great question. Oh my gosh.
So consciousness, because if let's just stop using the word consciousness and start thinking about emptiness, just thinking about absolute blankness in space. We are 99% space. Everything is. And that space is everywhere. It's between all of our particles. It's between all of our atoms. It's between all of our neurons and yada, yada, yada. So yes, it absolutely is. You could say it's infused within everything, but really the reality is that I keep on going back to the way I picture it, is that energy and matter is more infused into the emptiness. And so that kind of changes that a little bit. And so then as a person comes into this emptiness, okay, with their own narratives, that consciousness then it becomes sort of attracted on some level. And I don't feel that that's actually what happening. It's a metaphor that I'm using. It becomes attracted to those narratives, the storyline of a particular person, whatever that is. And it begins to imagine itself as being limited within that limited, that limited body, that limited story that person has. But once bodies and matter, energy comes and goes, but the emptiness is always there. Does that answer? I don't know if that answers your question.
I guess, but I'm still then confused on then, like you said, there is matter, there's energy and matter interacting. How do they interact with each other? Because that sounds like it'd be a tricky thing to define when they are not interacting with another. Is there something like a formula that you can tell when it's happening or not? I think
what I'm thinking.
It was like cognitive biases.
Yeah. But you mean in terms of why consciousness interacts with certain matter? Is that what you're saying? I'm not sure what you mean. Yeah. Because if you're going to ask me how matter works, I'm going to direct you back to physics.
Yeah, well, I guess he's asking, like, what is the relationship with consciousness between matter and energy? Like, how does it exist? Is it energy? Is it matter? Is it something else? Is it?
I see. I see. Okay, I see what you're saying. You're saying, so what are the two distinct?
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay. So Again, I don't know. I don't know, but I would say that if I had to make a suggestion, that I believe that there is something about the nature of empty space that creates energy. And we actually do have some physics for this, specifically from Lawrence Krauss. If you take a look at his last book,
okay.
A Universe. Yeah, I
read that book.
A Universe from Nothing. When we talk about virtual particles, there is something about the nature of empty space, which it's not really empty, that there is an energy within it. Energy seems to burst spontaneously, we could say, for lack of a better way. Before I start going into the physics behind it, how they believe matter and energy actually manifested out of a vacuum. That's what I would direct you back to the physicist. Is what
if I hadn't actually read the book that you're talking about, I would have thought you were crazy. But there's weird stuff with it that I am not qualified to make any assessment on.
Not either.
I had to, when I was reading that book. It was about 4 years ago when I read that book. I had to keep going back to the beginning of chapters to figure out what was going on there. And it's fascinating, and it's above my pay grade for sure. But Jordan, we got one more caller I want to get to. Do you have any last thoughts before we go to the next call?
Oh, thank you guys so much. I love hearing all your perspectives, and your thing on consciousness I've never heard of before, so I'm really glad to hear your perspective. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you, Jordan. Really appreciate it. Yeah, anytime somebody says, "Oh, I think like consciousness is energy," or so, I think something is energy, like the red flags in my brain go straight up because it's
I don't think it's energy.
I know what you're saying, though.
I think energy is energy, and I think that we can quantify energy. We can quantify matter, but I'm going to send you back to the quantum physicist. I'm going to send you back to the theoretical physicist.
Yeah, and then we get to quantum physics.
Exactly, and it does, because I feel that those interact beautifully, and so that's why, like I said, I don't read spiritual books anymore. I read physics now.
Yeah, here's what we need. We need a scientist from CERN on this show. That's what needs to happen. Anybody knows any contacts from CERN? Then we can talk. Then we can have a real conversation, about quantum mechanics by someone who. I'm not saying like you haven't read anything, Ian, but someone who is doing that every day.
Like, I don't know the math. I just read their end results. I trust that they've done the math. I don't understand any of it. I hear you.
All I can read is like internet message boards from physicists who talk about this stuff, and I'm just like, oh, okay. We'll try here.